The heist of a lifetime. The cold metal walls of the Typhora Royal Vault stood tall and unbreakable. It was the most secure place in the galaxy, guarded by advanced drones, energy shields, and elite warriors. No thief had ever breached it. No one had even dared to try. Until now. Alex Carter crouched behind a stack of supply crates, his breathing steady, his hands gripping a small black device. A single press of a button, and the power in the vault would flicker for exactly 13 seconds. That was all the time he had. 13 seconds to do the impossible. He took a deep breath and pressed the button. The lights dimmed. The security drones twitched, their glowing eyes flickering. The force shields around the entrance shimmered and vanished. Alex moved. Fast. He sprinted across the smooth metallic floor, sliding under a deactivated laser grid just before it powered back on. He reached the massive vault door, a towering slab of xenosteel, a material stronger than any human metal. But Alex wasn't here to break the door. He was here for something far simpler. He pulled a holo card from his pocket and pressed it against the access panel. A perfect copy of the Empress's royal signature flashed on the screen. The lock clicked open. Alex grinned. Too easy. The vault door slid open, revealing the treasure of an empire. Piles of shimmering gold, ancient relics, and glowing artifacts filled the chamber. But Alex wasn't interested in any of that. His eyes locked onto one object. A crown sat on a pedestal in the center of the room, floating in a field of golden light. It was beautiful, black and silver metal, shaped like twisting vines, with a single red gem at its center. The crown of Typhora, the most valuable object in the galaxy. Alex stepped forward, heart pounding. He had spent years planning this heist, gathering information, paying off the right people. But now that he was here, standing in front of it, he felt something strange. The crown was whispering. Not words, not voices, just a strange hum in his mind, like a pulse of energy reaching out to him. He hesitated for just a second. Then he grabbed it. The second his fingers touched the cold metal, a shockwave blasted through the room. The pedestal cracked. The golden light vanished. And then, alarmus, a blaring siren shook the vault as red lights flashed across the chamber. The power was back. The force fields, the drones, the security guards, everything was back online. Damn it. Alex cursed, shoving the crown into his bag. He turned and ran. The moment he stepped outside the vault, 2 Cypheran guards spotted him. They were tall, armored, and carried plasma spears that crackled with energy. Stop, one of them roared. Alex didn't stop. He jumped, twisting midair as he fired his stun gun. A blue pulse struck the first guard, sending him crashing to the floor. The second guard swung his spear at Alex's head, but Alex ducked, rolling under the strike. He had seconds before more guards arrived. Dashing through the corridor, Alex pulled out a small gravity disc and threw it behind him. The moment it hit the floor, a gravity field expanded, pulling everything into a crushing vortex. The chasing guards slammed into the walls, struggling against the force. Alex kept running. He reached a large glass window overlooking the palace city below. His ship was waiting on a rooftop nearby. But between him and the exit, more guards were rushing in. Too many. Then, boom. The far wall exploded as a massive figure stepped through the smoke. Alex's blood ran cold. It was her, Empress Varela. She stood tall, her dark armor gleaming under the flashing red lights. Her silver eyes locked onto Alex like a predator spotting its prey. She wasn't just angry, she was furious. "You," she said, her voice like ice. "You dare steal from me." Alex had no time for a conversation. He pulled out his last escape trick, a plasma charge. He threw it at the glass window and dived. The window shattered, and Alex fell. Wind roared past him as he plunged toward the city below. His ship was rising fast, autopilot engaged. He reached out and landed on the ramp just as the hatch closed behind him. "Go! Go!" he yelled. The ship blasted into the sky, racing away from the palace at full speed. For a moment, Alex thought he was safe. Then his ship's warning system blared. Incoming transmission. The screen flickered on, and Empress Varella's face appeared. Her expression was calm, but her silver eyes burned with rage. "You cannot run from me, thief," she said. "I will hunt you to the edge of the stars. I will take back my crown, and you will beg for mercy before I am done with you." The screen cut off. Alex sat back in his chair, breathing hard. He looked at the crown in his hands. This was no ordinary treasure. And now, the most powerful ruler in the galaxy was coming for him. And she would not stop until she had her revenge. A bounty on my head. The ship's cockpit was dimly lit, the glow from the control panel casting shadows on Alex Carter's tense face. His fingers drummed against the armrest as his stolen craft rocketed through hyperspace. The Empress's words still echoed in his mind. "You cannot run from me, thief." Alex let out a slow breath and glanced down at the crown in his lap. It felt heavier than before, not in weight, but in meaning. This wasn't just an expensive piece of jewelry. It was something dangerous. The moment he had touched it, something had awakened. But now wasn't the time for questions. Now was the time to stay alive. His ship, a rusty old Void Runner-class freighter, wasn't built for stealth. He needed a place to disappear, at least until he could figure out what to do next. "Where do I go?" Then it hit him. Noxus 9, a lawless space station in the outskirts of the galaxy, a place where no one asked questions. If there was anywhere he could hide, sell the crown, and slip away into the void, it was there. Alex leaned forward and adjusted his ship's trajectory. He had a plan. "The galaxy wants me dead." The moment Alex dropped out of hyperspace, his ship's warning alarm screamed. "Warning! Vauntiui alert." His stomach dropped. He pulled up the holoscreen, and his own face appeared. "Wanted, Alex Carter, 500,000 Suriditis, dead or alive, issued by Empress Villa." Alex groaned. That was fast. A 500,000 credit bounty meant every bounty hunter, assassin, and mercenary in the galaxy would now be after him. As if on cue, the radar pinged, multiple ships closing in. Alex cursed under his breath and yanked the controls. His ship dove through an asteroid field as laser blasts zipped past him. A pirate ship locked onto him. "Alex Carter." A voice crackled over the comms. "Surrender now, and I'll make your death quick." "Tempting," Alex muttered. Then he killed the engines. His ship suddenly dropped, spiraling toward a massive asteroid. The pirate ship overshot him. At the last second, Alex fired the thrusters and swerved into a narrow asteroid tunnel. The pirate ship crashed into a rock wall behind him, exploding in a ball of fire. Alex exhaled sharply. That was close. With his pursuers left behind, he gunned the thrusters and sped toward Noxus 9, a den of thieves. Noxus 9 was a floating junkyard, a massive ancient space station that reeked of oil, rust, and desperation. The moment Alex stepped off his ship, he felt eyes on him. He pulled his hood lower and moved through the neon-lit alleys, his bag heavy with the stolen crown. He needed a buyer. There was only one person he trusted for this kind of deal, Taro Vex, an alien black market dealer. Alex entered a dimly lit tavern, the stench of burnt fuel and alcohol filling the air. In the far corner, a blue-skinned alien sat at a round table, sipping a drink with sharp metallic fingers tapping against the glass. Taro Vex looked up and grinned. "Alex Carter," he drawled. "You've got the whole galaxy looking for you." Alex sat down, keeping his voice low. "I need to sell something. Fast." Taro raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. Something that belongs to the Empress of Typhara. Alex's pulse quickened. So you heard. Taro chuckled. Everyone's heard. Half the bounty hunters in this station are looking for you. Alex swallowed hard. Can you buy it or not? Taro leaned forward, his mechanical fingers tapping against the table. Show me. Alex hesitated, then slowly pulled out the crown. The second he placed it on the table, the air shifted. The tavern fell silent. People turned to look, eyes widening in shock. The bartender froze mid-pour. Conversation stopped. Even Taro Vex, who had seen everything, looked nervous. Alex, he whispered, do you have any idea what you've stolen? Alex frowned. It's a crown. A really expensive one. Taro shook his head. No, it's more than that. He leaned closer, voice barely audible. This isn't just the Empress's crown. It's the throne crown. The artifact that proves the ruler of Typhara has the right to rule. Without it, the Empress is powerless. Alex blinked. What? If you keep this, Taro said, you're not just a thief anymore. You're a threat to the throne. The Empress won't stop until she kills you. Alex felt a chill crawl up his spine. Before he could reply, a deep voice echoed through the tavern. That won't be necessary. A figure in dark armor stepped into the light. Alex's heart stopped. A bounty hunter. Not just any bounty hunter. Kalos the Unbroken, a legend in the underworld, known for never failing a hunt. Taro Vex backed away. Sorry, Alex, he muttered. This one's out of my hands. Alex stood slowly, his fingers itching toward his blaster. Kalos smirked. You're coming with me, Carter. Dead or alive. Alex grabbed the crown and flipped the table over as he dove for cover. Blaster fire erupted in the tavern. People screamed, diving for safety. Alex sprinted toward the back exit, dodging laser blasts. He burst into the alley, breathing hard. His ship was too far. He needed a way out. Now. Then he saw it. A speeder bike parked nearby. Alex jumped onto it and kicked the engine to life. The bike roared forward just as Kalos broke through the door, blaster raised. Alex twisted the throttle, blasting off into the dark alleys of Noxus 9, with one thought burning in his mind. I need to get off this station. And fast. The Empress strikes. The wind howled past Alex Carter's ears as he sped through the dark, neon-lit alleys of Noxus 9. The speeder bike beneath him roared, weaving through rusted towers, abandoned market stalls, and flickering neon signs. Behind him, Kalos the Unbroken gave chase, his own speeder matching Alex's speed with terrifying ease. Alex gritted his teeth. He twisted the throttle harder, pushing the bike to its limits. The engines whined, barely holding together as he swerved past a pile of junk ships. A plasma bolt whizzed past his head. Kalos was shooting at him while driving. Cheater, Alex growled. Another shot narrowly missed, blowing apart a nearby billboard. Sparks rained down as Alex dodged falling debris. He had seconds before Kalos hit his mark. Up ahead, he spotted a maintenance tunnel, a narrow, barely used passageway just wide enough for a bike. A reckless idea formed in his head. Alex yanked the handlebars, twisting into the tunnel just as Kalos fired again. The bounty hunter had no time to react. His speeder slammed into the tunnel wall, flipping violently before exploding in a burst of blue fire. Alex didn't stop to look. He gunned the throttle and blasted toward the nearest hangar bay. No safe place left. The hangar district was the busiest part of Noxus 9. Ships of all kinds, from massive freighters to tiny escape pods, sat parked under flickering lights. Alex skidded to a stop, ditching the speeder as he sprinted toward his ship. His pulse pounded. His ship was in sight. If he could just. A loud boom shook the entire station. A deep, vibrating hum filled the air. The temperature dropped. The very gravity around him felt strange. Alex froze. He knew what this meant. She was here. Empress Varela had arrived. A massive black warship hovered outside the station, its presence a living shadow against the stars. A crackling energy field formed around it, twisting the space around it unnaturally. Then, from the warship's underbelly, a lone figure dropped. The Empress. She landed without a sound, her dark armor gleaming under the station's neon lights. Silver eyes locked onto Alex. Every single person in the hangar stopped moving. Conversations died. Bounty hunters, criminals, even station security, all froze in place, too afraid to breathe. The Empress of Sephara had come herself, and she wanted Alex dead. The hunter becomes the hunted. Alex didn't wait. He turned and ran. The moment his feet moved, the Empress raised her hand. A crackling wave of energy ripped through the air. The hangar trembled. Alex barely dodged as a blast of pure force slammed into a nearby freighter, sending it crashing into the wall. People scattered. The hangar was now a battlefield. Alex dove behind a cargo crate, his breath coming fast. Okay, new plan. He needed time. If he could reach his ship, he could escape. But against her, he had no chance in a fight. The Empress wasn't just a ruler, she was a warrior. The sound of footsteps echoed through the hangar. Slow, calm, unstoppable. She wasn't rushing. She knew he had nowhere to go. Alex pulled out a thermal grenade. If she wanted a fight, he'd at least slow her down. He twisted the grenade's ignition, then threw it over his shoulder. Boom! A massive fireball erupted behind him, sending a shockwave through the hangar. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, the flames parted. The Empress walked through them, completely unarmed. Alex's heart stopped. She raised her hand again, and suddenly, he couldn't move. An invisible force locked around his body, lifting him into the air. His limbs strained, but it was useless. She was holding him in place, without touching him. The Empress stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You truly don't understand what you've stolen, do you?" she said, her voice smooth, cold. Alex struggled. "It's a crown. A very shiny, very expensive crown." She narrowed her silver eyes. "You think this is about wealth?" The grip around him tightened. The crown in his bag glowed. A strange pulse ran through his body, almost like the crown itself was reacting. For the first time, the Empress's expression changed. A flicker of confusion. "Impossible," she whispered. Alex felt the energy grip weaken for a split second. He acted instantly. With all his strength, he twisted and pulled a hidden plasma knife from his sleeve. The blade flashed, slicing through the invisible force holding him. He dropped to the ground, rolling as another energy blast shattered the floor where he had stood. Without a second thought, Alex bolted toward his ship. The hangar doors were already closing. If he didn't make it now, he was trapped. The Empress raised her hand again, but this time, something stopped her. The crown pulsed again. A strange energy wave rippled through the air. For just a moment, her control faltered. Alex jumped onto his ship's loading ramp. "Launch, now!" he shouted. The engines roared to life. The ship blasted forward, escaping through the shrinking hangar doors just in time. Alex collapsed in his seat, breathing heavily. He had escaped, but not for long. On his ship's display, a transmission request flashed. He hesitated, then accepted it. The Empress's face appeared on screen. Her silver eyes burned with cold fury. "You cannot run forever, thief," she said. "No matter where you hide, I will find you. And when I do," she leaned in slightly, "you will kneel." The screen cut off. Alex swallowed hard. He looked down at the crown in his hands. The Empress wasn't just after revenge. She was afraid. But why? And why did the crown react to him? His heart pounded. He needed answers. Because if what he suspected was true, this was only the beginning. A hidden power awakens. The stars stretched endlessly outside the cockpit window, cold and indifferent. The Void Runner drifted through the dark void of space, far from any major trade routes or inhabited worlds. For the first time in hours, Alex Carter allowed himself to breathe. He had escaped. Barely. His ship's systems flickered, badly damaged from the chase. The engines were overheating, the fuel reserves were running dangerously low, and his onboard AI, VX, had been glitching ever since they jumped into hyperspace. But all of that was a problem for later. Right now, Alex had one burning question in his mind. Why did the Empress react that way? He leaned back in his chair, staring at the crown sitting on his dashboard. For something that had nearly gotten him killed, it looked peaceful. The black metal gleamed under the soft glow of the cockpit lights, and the red gem pulsed faintly, as if breathing. It had done something back there, something powerful, and the Empress had felt it. You think this is about wealth? Her words echoed in his mind. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. All right, you shiny piece of trouble. What the hell are you? A soft hum filled the air. Alex froze. The crown was glowing brighter. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the ship like a slow heartbeat. The lights flickered. The temperature dropped. Then, before Alex could react, a surge of energy blasted through his body. Visions of the past. Alex's mind exploded with images. A city of towering spires, shining under twin suns. Streets filled with sci-fi warriors, their silver eyes blazing with purpose. Then, war. Flames devoured the city. Ships burned in the sky. Screams echoed in the distance. A battle unlike anything Alex had ever seen raged across the stars. Giant warships shattered under the force of some unseen power. An entire planet cracked apart like glass. At the center of it all, a throne, and a figure standing before it, wearing the very crown Alex now held in his hands. But it wasn't the Empress. It was someone else. Someone. Human. The vision shattered. Alex gasped, stumbling back, his heart pounding. His body ached as if he had been electrocuted. The crown sat on the floor where he had dropped it, the red gem still glowing softly. He swallowed hard. What the hell was that? The vision had felt real. Too real. The city, the war, the human on the throne. What did it mean? Alex had spent his whole life believing that humans were nothing more than a small-time species in a massive galaxy. Sure, Earth had joined the Galactic Alliance, but they weren't powerful. They weren't kings. But that vision had shown something else entirely. Something impossible. His fingers twitched toward the crown. For a moment, he hesitated. Then, taking a deep breath, he picked it up again. No shockwave, no visions, just silence. But now he knew. This was more than just a stolen artifact. This was a weapon. And the Empress knew it. The scholar who knew too much. Alex needed answers. And there was only one person in the galaxy who might have them. Dr. Ilias Farron, a rogue historian, hunted by the Hyperion Empire for digging too deep into their past. If anyone knew what the crown really was, it was him. The problem. He was hiding on Sardak IV, a desert moon controlled by warlords, mercenaries, and slavers, a place where people like Alex didn't last long. Still, he had no choice. VX, Alex called out. The ship's AI flickered to life, her voice slightly distorted. Yes, Captain. Plot a course for Sardak IV, and prep the stealth drive. We don't need any uninvited guests. Understood. As the ship veered toward its next destination, Alex sat back, gripping the crown tightly. The Empress wasn't after revenge. She was after control. And now, for the first time, Alex had the power to fight back. A trap on Sardak IV. The moment Alex stepped off his ship onto Sardak IV, he knew something was wrong. The air was thick with heat, the orange sun beating down on the dust-covered streets. The place was a lawless wasteland, filled with bounty hunters, warlords, and criminals looking for their next target. And right now, he was the biggest prize on the planet. His bounty had doubled. 1,000,000 credits. That meant everyone here wanted to kill him. Keeping his hood low, he moved through the crowded marketplace, heading toward the last known hideout of Dr. Varin. Every step felt too easy. No one attacked him. No bounty hunters jumped from the shadows. And that's when he realized it was a trap. He turned a corner and came face to face with an entire squad of armored soldiers, sci-fi enforcers, the Empress's elite warriors. Alex cursed under his breath. "Well," he muttered, "guess I'm not getting a peaceful day after all." The lead soldier stepped forward, his voice cold. "By order of Empress Varela, you are under arrest." Alex tilted his head. "Yeah, and what if I say no?" The soldier raised his blaster. "Then you die." Alex smirked. "Then I guess I have only one option." He reached into his jacket. The moment the soldiers twitched, he pulled out the crown. A surge of power exploded outward. The ground shook. The sky darkened. The soldiers hesitated. Fear flickered in their eyes. Alex could feel it now. The crown was responding to him. For the first time, he wasn't just running. He was fighting back. And the entire galaxy was about to find out what that meant. Betrayal in the shadows. The desert winds howled across the dusty streets of Sardak IV, carrying the scent of oil, rust, and death. The marketplace had fallen silent. Every bounty hunter, merchant, and scavenger had stopped to watch. Alex Carter stood alone, holding the crown of sci-fi in his hand. Before him, a squad of sci-fi enforcers stood frozen, their armor gleaming under the burning sun. They had expected an easy capture, a simple thief to be put down. But now, their eyes flickered with fear, because the moment Alex lifted the crown, the very air around him changed. A pulse of invisible energy rippled outward. The sand beneath his feet shifted. The sky dimmed, as if the planet itself recognized what he held. One of the soldiers, his hand shaking, whispered, "It's happening again." But before Alex could process those words, they attacked. Blaster fire erupted from all sides. Alex dove behind a broken-down speeder, plasma bolts sizzling past his head. He barely had time to process what was happening. His heart pounded, his breath sharp and ragged. Think, damn it. The crown had power. He could feel it. But how the hell was he supposed to use it? He had no time to figure it out. The enforcers were closing in fast. "All right," Alex muttered, gripping the crown tighter. "Time for some blind faith." He raised the artifact. And the world shifted. The soldiers staggered backward, their armor rattling. The sand around Alex lifted into the air, swirling like a storm. He felt something ignite inside him, something ancient and angry. And then, everything exploded. A shockwave of pure force blasted outward. The soldiers were thrown through the air, crashing into market stalls and walls like ragdolls. The entire marketplace shook, as if the planet itself had trembled. Alex gasped, his vision swimming. His body felt like it was burning from the inside, but he was still standing. The crown had protected him. "What are you?" he thought, staring at the artifact in his hands. But before he could think, before he could even breath, a single slow clap echoed through the wreckage. Alex's blood ran cold. He turned and saw Taro Vex standing at the edge of the destruction. His old friend, his only ally. And he was smiling. A friend's betrayal. "Taro," Alex panted. "You're alive. I thought you thought I was hiding." Taro cut him off. "Oh no, my friend. I was just waiting." The smile didn't reach his eyes. Alex's instincts screamed at him. Something was wrong. Taro wasn't afraid of the soldiers. He wasn't shocked by what had just happened. He was expecting it. Alex took a slow step back. "You sold me out." Taro tilted his head. "I like to think of it as making the best deal possible. Behind him, a dozen bounty hunters emerged from the shadows, their weapons aimed directly at Alex. And then, a shadow fell across the ruins. Alex's breath hitched. A massive outsmart warship loomed above them, and descending from it was her, Empress. She landed gracefully, her dark armor reflecting the twin suns of Sardak IV. She stood tall, silver eyes locked onto Alex, like a predator that had finally cornered its prey. The crowd backed away in silence, too afraid to even breathe. Alex stared at Taro. "You really sold me out to her." Taro gave a shrug, flipping a golden credit chip between his fingers. 1,000,000 credits is a lot, Alex. Alex clenched his fists. "I trusted you." The Empress took a slow step forward. Theatrix aside, she said, her voice smooth but deadly, "You are out of time, Carter. Give me the crown." For a moment, Alex considered running. Then he considered fighting. But deep down, he knew neither would work. Not this time. Slowly, carefully, Alex lifted the crown and placed it on his own head. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Taro's smirk vanished. The Empress's expression darkened. The moment the crown touched Alex's skin, the sky cracked open. Lightning erupted from the clouds, striking the sands around them. The air turned electric, alive with an ancient force. The earth shook beneath his feet, sending cracks through the desert floor. And in that moment, Alex understood. The crown didn't just belong to the Typhorans. It had been stolen from humans centuries ago. The vision he had seen, it was real. Humans had once ruled. And now, the crown had chosen him. Empress took another step back. For the first time, she looked afraid. A choice that changes everything. Power coursed through Alex's veins. It wasn't just strength, it was knowledge. He could see fragments of the past, echoes of forgotten wars, secrets buried beneath lies. And he could see Varela's fear. She wasn't hunting him because he was a thief. She was hunting him because he was a threat. A rightful ruler, something she had spent her entire life erasing. Alex exhaled slowly. "You knew, didn't you?" he said. "You knew this crown never belonged to you." The Empress didn't answer. The wind roared between them. For the first time, Alex had the upper hand. He could feel it, the crowd watching, the bounty hunters hesitating. He had just survived a direct battle with her enforcers and awakened something they couldn't understand. He had two choices: run, disappear into the void, stay alive, but forever be hunted. Stand, challenge the Empress. Take back what was stolen. The Empress's eyes burned into his. "Choose wisely, Carter," she said. Alex took a slow breath. His fingers brushed against the crown, and he made his decision. The final escape. The storm raged around Alex Carter. The skies above Sardak IV were split open, swirling with unnatural clouds, glowing veins of lightning arcing across the heavens. The crown of Zyphara sat heavy on his head, but not with weight, with power. Power he didn't understand. Power the Empress feared. Her silver eyes locked onto him, her once calm expression cracking. Just for a moment. A flicker of hesitation. A moment of doubt. It was all Alex needed. He moved. With a pulse of energy so strong it shook the air, he turned and sprinted toward the nearest ship, his heart pounding, lungs burning. The crown pulsed with him, the sand beneath his feet lifting into the air, reacting to every step. Behind him, the Empress roared. "Stop him!" Cypheran soldiers snapped out of their shock. Blasters fired. Plasma bolts scorched the air. Alex dodged, twisting through the chaos. Taro Vex, the traitor, shouted something, but Alex didn't hear it. He had one goal: escape. His ship was still too far. He wouldn't make it in time. Think, Carter. Think. And then he saw it. A Cypheran Imperial transport. Sleek, armored, designed for carrying high-value prisoners. Perfect. Alex lunged for it, his hands slamming against the access panel. Locked. Of course. A soldier charge, plasma blade raised. Alex spun, grabbing the soldier's wrist mid-swing. Before he could think, before he could even react, the crown reacted for him. A shockwave erupted from his body, sending the soldier flying into a crumbling wall. Alex's hands shook. That wasn't normal. The crown was protecting him. No time to question it. He ripped the security key from the fallen soldier's belt and slammed it against the panel. The door hissed open. He dove inside. Hunted in the sky. The moment Alex took the pilot's seat, the ship's AI came online. Warning. Unauthorized pilot DTCTE. Override. Alex muttered, fingers flying across the controls. New authorization. Me. Processing. The ship trembled. Outside, Varela herself was approaching. Her hands crackled with raw energy. Alex didn't know what kind of power she had, but he was not going to wait and find out. The engines roared to life. Come on, come on. Varela raised her hand. A blast of energy shot toward the ship. Alex punched the thrusters. The transport launched into the sky, just as the ground exploded beneath it, throwing fire and sand in every direction. Alex was slammed back into his seat as the G-forces crushed his chest. Behind him, warning lights flashed red. Multiple pursuit shippies as DTCT'd. Of course, the Empress wasn't just letting him go. She was sending the entire fleet after him. Dogfight in orbit. Alex's ship broke through the upper atmosphere, streaking into the void of space, and right into an Imperial blockade. He barely had a second to react before missiles locked onto him. VX, deploy countermeasures. Ni JTIV. Ship 2 is not heavy, CO even TARM EAs, URES. Alex's jaw clenched. Of course it doesn't. The missiles launched. He yanked the controls hard, sending the ship into a spiraling dive. The engines screamed in protest, barely holding together. The missiles followed. Alex's mind raced. Think. Think. Then he saw it. A massive, derelict asteroid field, filled with the wreckage of old battleships, a graveyard of forgotten wars. He angled the ship toward it, barreling straight into the chaos. Behind him, the missiles closed in. Come on, Carter, he muttered. You're good at two things, running and not dying. Let's do both. He twisted through the debris, barely missing massive chunks of twisted metal. The missiles weren't as lucky. Two of them detonated against a floating battleship hull, sending shockwaves through the asteroid belt. One left. Alex dove lower, hugging the surface of a massive shattered cruiser, weaving through its ruined corridors. The final missile followed, gaining ground. At the last second, Alex pulled up. The missile didn't. It slammed into the wreckage below, detonating in a blinding fireball. Alex grinned. And that's why I'm still alive. His victory was short-lived, because the Imperial fleet was still closing in. A desperate gamble. Alex needed a way out. Fast. Then, he saw something on his scanners. A wormhole. It was unstable, half-collapsed, barely navigable. But it was his only chance. He took a deep breath. VX, calculate jump. Recom and inundation. Do not attempt. Alex clenched his jaw. Not an option. Survival chances, 12%. Better than 0. He punched the throttle. The ship rocketed toward the wormhole, engines screaming as the gravity well pulled him in. Behind him, the Empress's fleet fired everything they had. Lasers, missiles, plasma bolts. But the wormhole pulled him in first. For a moment, everything vanished. The ship shuddered, twisting through the chaos of the anomaly. The controls flickered, alarms blared. And then, everything went silent. Alex opened his eyes. Outside his cockpit window, a new world stretched before him. A world he had never seen before. A world that, deep down, felt familiar. His breath caught in his throat. The crown pulsed again. And somehow he knew. This wasn't just any planet. This was where it all began. The truth. The war. The reason the Empress was afraid. He had just stepped into history itself. And he wasn't alone. Because waiting on the surface was someone who had been expecting him. The rise of a new ruler. Alex Carter's ship emerged from the wormhole, its hull barely holding together, sparks flying from the control panels. The turbulence had nearly ripped him apart, but somehow he had made it. He sucked in a deep breath, trying to calm his pounding heart. Then he looked out the window, and his breath caught in his throat. Below him stretched a planet unlike any he had ever seen. Vast cities of towering silver spires, overgrown with thick jungle, stood abandoned under a sky of swirling blue and gold. Massive statues of human figures, carved into the mountains, loomed over the landscape. It was Earth, but not his Earth. This was something older, something forgotten, a place that shouldn't exist. Yet here it was. And deep down, Alex knew. This was where the truth had been buried. This was where the war had started. And if he was right, this was where it would end. The ghosts of the past. The ship lurched, alarms blaring as the engines finally died. Alex barely managed to steer it toward an overgrown landing pad, the ship skidding through vines and rubble before coming to a smoking halt. Silence followed. For a long moment, Alex just sat there, staring out at the ruins. He could still feel the crown pulsing on his head, guiding him, telling him to move forward. Slowly, he rose from his seat, grabbing his blaster, though he had a feeling he wouldn't need it. He stepped out onto the surface. The air was thick with the scent of ancient rain, the sky crackling with distant storms. The jungle hummed with life, yet the ruins were eerily silent, as if the entire world was waiting for him. Then, a voice. "I was wondering when you'd arrive." Alex froze. Ahead, standing at the entrance of a massive stone temple, was a figure cloaked in shadows. A man, a human. And he was waiting for Alex. The keeper of the throne. The stranger stepped into the light. His features were sharp, his hair streaked with gray, his eyes glowing faintly gold, just like the crown on Alex's head. "You don't know me," the man said, "but I know you." Alex tensed, gripping his blaster. "That's not creepy at all." The man smirked. "You wear the crown, don't you? Then that means you've seen the visions. You know the truth." Alex narrowed his eyes. "I know a war was fought here. I know the Empress isn't the first to wear this crown. And I know humans. We were more than just an insignificant species once." The man nodded. "We were kings." The word sent a chill down Alex's spine. The man gestured toward the temple doors, which slowly began to open on their own. "Come inside," he said. "It's time you see the rest of the truth. The throne that was stolen." Inside the temple, the air felt charged, like a storm trapped in stone. The walls were covered in ancient carvings, showing humans ruling the stars, commanding fleets, leading armies. At the very center stood a throne of black stone, its armrests shaped like outstretched hands. The moment Alex stepped forward, the crown pulsed again, as if it recognized the throne. The man, the keeper, watched him carefully. "This is where it all started," he said. "Before the Cypherans ruled, before the Empress's bloodline took control, humans were the first rulers of the stars." Alex swallowed hard. "So what happened?" The keeper's expression darkened. "Betrayal. War. The Cypherans were once our greatest allies, but they wanted more. They feared our power, our knowledge. And so, they wiped us out, burned our worlds, took our technology. They erased us from history and made themselves the rulers instead." Alex stared at the carvings on the walls, his chest tightening. The Empress had spent her entire life hiding this truth. Because if people knew, if the galaxy remembered, then the Typharan Empire would fall. And Alex, he was the proof that the past wasn't lost. The keeper watched him closely. "The crown chose you," he said, "not by accident. You carry the same blood as the last king, the last true ruler." Alex hesitated. "I'm just a thief, man." The keeper smiled faintly. "Maybe. But now, you're a thief with a kingdom." Before Alex could respond, the entire temple shook. The Empress's last stand. A deafening roar split the air. The walls cracked, dust raining from the ceiling. Outside, the sky turned black. Alex knew what was coming. She had followed him. The doors burst open, and Empress Varela stepped inside. She looked furious. "You," she said, her voice low, "dangerous. I should have killed you the moment I saw you." Behind her, dozens of Cyphern enforcers flooded into the temple, weapons drawn. The keeper simply laughed. "You're too late," he said. "He already knows the truth." Varela's silver eyes burned. "It doesn't matter what he knows," she said, "because I'm going to kill him. And when I do, history will remain mine to control." Alex lifted the crown. The temple reacted instantly. Light exploded from the walls. The statues outside began to move, their ancient eyes glowing with golden fire. For the first time, Alex felt no fear. He looked at Varela. "You've spent your life running from the past," he said. "But today, the past fights back." And then, the war began. The battle for the throne. The temple exploded into chaos. The statues came alive, ancient warriors of stone and light crashing into Cypheran soldiers. Alex moved like lightning, his body fueled by the crown's power. He dodged a plasma bolt, grabbed a fallen soldier's blade, and cut through the enemy with impossible speed. The keeper fought beside him, his eyes burning with golden fire, his strikes faster than humanly possible. And in the center of it all, Varela. She fought like a demon, her energy crackling as she tore through the ancient defenses, her rage limitless. Alex met her head-on. They clashed, the last ruler of Cyphera versus the rightful king. Blades flashed, power surged. The air rippled with every strike. Varela snarled, pressing him back. But Alex wasn't the same thief she had chased across the galaxy. He was something more now. He was history fighting back. With a final surge of power, he threw her back, sending her crashing against the throne. She gasped, struggling to stand. Alex loomed over her, the crown's energy glowing brighter than ever. "You stole this throne," he said, "but now it's mine." And as the storm raged above, as the Cypheran Empire crumbled, Alex Carter, the thief, became something else entirely. He became king.